I just want to talk about my now friend Mariette Frey a little bit. I met her just a year ago, I think. I was coming up on a big scary move, and I happened to notice that she had an episode out on Instagram. I saw a post that Mariette's on the Move has a new episode out this week, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing! Like a moving podcast. That's so cool. And so I started following her, and I commented on one of her posts one day. I don't even remember what it was about, and she messaged me right away, and she was like, "Do you want to hop on a call?" And that was it. Like, that was all it took. I just, she was so dedicated to what she was doing, and she was just so kind to me. And so she had coached me through my move as much as possible. My move was not well planned because it was me, not her. But she she talked me down from some stuff, and she talked me through some ideas as well. And so I just think she's amazing. I think that she's so kind, and she's so experienced, and so she can tell you, from that experience that, you're doing okay, and that was the main thing that I needed, because I was not in a great place in my mind, that, she was like, "You're going to be okay. Like, you're doing a great job." And that was, I think at that point, that was what I really needed. And so, that coaching part was super, super helpful for me. And I actually just got to meet her last weekend in person. So that was, you know, it was pretty amazing. Anyway, I think I highly recommend Mariette to anyone who is in the process of moving. She's got great ideas, and she has done it all pretty much. So she can tell you. But definitely check her out. Check out her podcast. Check out everything that she's doing, because she's really helpful and doing amazing things.
Mariette's on the move. What? Mariette's on the move. Again? Mariette's on the move.
Not anymore. I'm Mariette of Mariette's on the Move, and I'm finally setting roots back in sweet home Chicago. But if you're thinking about moving, I'm on it. I've moved 20 times in the last 24 years to 6 of America's top cities, and boy, do I have some stories for you. I'll be doing some on-air coaching and, of course, giving you my tips, tricks, and scams to avoid. This is the Moving Tips and Tricks podcast. Now let's get moving.
Welcome back. It is season 3 of the Moving Tips and Tricks podcast, formerly known as Mariette's on the Move. That was just way too hard for people to type out or remember, so I ended up changing it. I also changed the name of the website, so you can still get me at mariette'sonthemove.com, but now it is just deciding to move, which I thought was going to be even easier. So decidingtomove.com. I'm changing a lot of things up, you guys. You're going to be able to go to my website soon and actually listen to the podcast like right there, right from the homepage. I'm not doing it. Poditize is embedding my podcast, so it'll kind of be a blog, kind of be a player. I don't even know what I'm getting, but I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I also have them helping me edit, because I have no editing skills when it comes to video. My brother got the genes on that one, so I'm making the investment in the podcast because I find that there are still so many people that are so lost when it comes to whether or not they should move, what to do, how to find movers, how not to get scammed, just all that stuff. And you guys, it is really tough out there right now. It is very sophisticated when it comes to the scams. And so we're going to do a lot of things. So one of the things I'm changing up is the format, just so you know. I'm going to do 2 a week, I think, for the next 6 or 7 weeks, and then we'll see how it goes from there. But what I'm hoping to do is 1 solo episode and then 1 interview episode, or 1 solo episode where I teach you about things like, if you're on the YouTube channel, I'm going to show you the rights and responsibilities that you have as a civilian moving in this great country. And the second episode would be a coaching episode. So I am bringing back my coaching practice. It's been like 3 years since I've been an actual life coach and had a roster. But I think it's really important because relocation as a strategist is such a different niche than normal life coaching. Life coaching itself is to like help you remove roadblocks and to help you get unstuck and get over yourself. And when you meet with somebody like me who actually does relocation plus all of that stuff, you find that taking action is a little bit easier, but it also is something that can help you not take action in the sense that, maybe you shouldn't move right now. And I would say half the people that I talk to, I convince them not to move because it's not the right time, it's not the right place, it's not the right financial decision. And that's what I want to coach around. So when you go to decidingtomove.com, I'm going to say it again. One of the very first things that you see on the podcast, on the website, is a free podcast coaching session. So you sign up there. It goes to a form that I'm going to check once a week because I still work full time. And this is just a side hobby and a side practice. I would say side hustle, but I don't make any money off this thing. I would love to. If somebody wants to sponsor me, by all means, reach out to me. But it is getting expensive to produce. So we're going to run this through the end of the year and see how it works with the new company that I'm partnering with, and make some decisions from there. But right now, some of the things that I want to talk to you about I'm not actually going to do seasons, you guys. I think I'm just going to like take the season thing off and just do episodes. So that way, like if I do take a break like I did last time, it's not that big of a deal. But I did, like I said, I held up the your rights and responsibilities. Ding. This is a very robust 21-page booklet that every mover that you meet with is supposed to give you. They don't always do that. Partially because if it's not a good moving company, then they don't want you to see some of this stuff. But I want you to see it, and I want you to know what it is, and I want you to know that you have rights and responsibilities, but so does the moving company. It goes both ways. So what I'm going to do is break things like this down. I'm going to do super sexy episodes like valuation and insurance and what that all means. And then so protectyourmove.gov is a government website. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, or the FMCSA, they are the governing body for household good movers. This is where this rights and responsibilities booklet came from. And it's the U.S. Department of Transportation that puts it on. So all of the stuff that we're going to talk about has been vetted by them. I'm going to put my own spin on it too, because I have moved 20 times in the last 24 years to 6 of America's top cities. So I have a little bit of street cred, but I've also had crazy experiences. You guys, I've had my stuff held hostage. I told the story at one point on the episode, or on one of the episodes. I'll probably tell that story again. But I want you to have things like the moving checklist. I want you to know what the terms and terminology means, because when you're talking to some of these movers, the more educated you sound, the more scared they are to scam you. And there are a lot of amazing, amazing moving companies out there. Shout out to the Moving Titans. They are a group of individuals that started this educational program for movers on how to be better movers, how to be more efficient, how to scale their businesses, because we need the good guys. And so those are people I've had Wade Sweikel on the show before. He was the founder of that with a guy named Chad. And I feel like you guys need to understand what's going on out there, because there are some very, very, very sophisticated scams out there. But there's also things that people don't realize. So I'll give you an example. I was talking to somebody about an upcoming coaching session that we're going to do. And they were moving from the Pacific Northwest to the Midwest. And they were going to do a DIY move. And some of the things that I suggested, like getting independent insurance, they're renting their house right now. So they're not going to have homeowners insurance that covers it. But if you're driving and you hit a storm and the truck, gets in an accident, like all your stuff is gone if it's not insured, right? Insured the right way. Like the insurance that you get from a moving company is a lot less than the insurance that you're going to get from an actual insurance company. But a lot of people don't even know that that's a thing. And luckily they'll have their move and it'll go fine and there'll be nothing wrong with it. But that's the thing, is that if you get lucky like that, then count your blessings. If you don't get lucky like that and you lose all your stuff, like you're paying out of pocket for that. So that's the kind of stuff that I want to talk to you this, I was going to say season, but I'm not doing seasons. in the next few episodes, I want to talk to you guys about some of that stuff. But then I'm also going to have fun interviews. So like I have David Sidoni from How to Buy a Home. He has like, 1 million people download his podcast a year or a month because it's, really like the ins and outs. He's a real estate agent and he knows the ins and outs of like what you can and can't do. He helps you do it on a budget. He helps you plan for it. And the average age of somebody buying their first home has gone up to like 38, which, everybody thinks it's the American dream that you want to buy a house in your 20s, but it's just not realistic in today's market. So when I have somebody like him, I've got a guy, he's a professional organizer, certified professional organizer. And I'm a certified professional organizer, but you guys, I don't do it every day. Like he's a guy that does it every day for clients. So we're going to talk about things like how to make a room more zen and how to declutter and how to get rid of your stuff and how to choose what to get rid of, things like that. I've got some financial people coming on who are really going to talk through like the finances, of a move. And then I've got some people that are going to talk a little bit about mindset. I know I did a lot of episodes on mindset in the past, but this is kind of a unique twist on it because I've got somebody that moved from New York City to Florida and all the things that came along with that. So I think it's going to be great. Actually, I know it's going to be great because even just like the pre-conversations I've had with people were really fun. But I think doing a lot more solo episodes will help you as well because 11 million people move a year, and I'm hearing that up to 3/4 of them regret it. And I know I'm one of them. So let's get into that part of the story, shall we? So I moved from Charlotte to Indianapolis. And a lot of people were like, why Indianapolis? I moved because my mom, my brother, I have some aunts and uncles, and my cousin live in Knoxville. And it is an adorable little town, but it's not a town for me. I love visiting, but I don't want to live there. I would love to get like another place there that I can go and spend some time there and visit longer. But since I just bought this house, I am not going to buy another house for a little bit. Anyway, point of my story is that the rest of my friends and family and my dad and my stepmom, Kim, and my cousins and everything live up in Chicago. And so Indianapolis is a great in-between because it's 3 hours from Chicago, 5 hours from Knoxville. And I ended up finding a house there that I was going to buy. And I would not recommend buying in a city that you've never lived in. However, the strategy that I had here, it was a very, very reasonably priced house that I could rent out. I could buy it, rent out, and still, if, somebody didn't pay their rent, I could still make the mortgage plus, pay for wherever I was living. But the goal was to live in the house for a couple of years and then rent it out and either upgrade or move to a different area of the city or, whatever. And I ended up having to walk away from the house for many reasons. One, the walkability wasn't great. And some of these things I did look at, but I didn't realize like what I would be walking to was a lot farther than where I thought. And there was a lot of stuff in there. It wasn't the greatest neighborhood either. It was an up and coming neighborhood, but when it came down to it, I paid for the souped up inspection, and I'm so glad I did. I will tell you guys, an inspection is your best protection. I feel like I should put that on a t-shirt. Maybe I'm actually going to have merch. Total squirrel moment just now. But yeah, if you have a funny saying, like I'm going to have some t-shirts made, in a merchandise shop for funny things that like we've said during my, my moves. I'm going to have a new logo put on it soon, I think. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, so if you have something fun that you want to put on a t-shirt that has to do with moving, like send it to me because it might just make it into the merch shop. But that being said, I paid for the souped up inspection. And we found a bunch of things wrong with the house. I mean, the house itself was adorable. And on first glance, it was great. But when we got underneath the hood and like, there were little things like the hookup for the washer was there, but there was no dryer vent. And that would require you to like go through the floor. I mean, you have to have a professional go and like cut that out, and has to be, I mean, there was just all kinds of stuff like that. There were like little tiny things that would make a big, huge difference. Cause once you close on that house, you guys, that is yours along with all of its problems. And so, I ended up paying for the inspection. It was like $1,700 just to put it in perspective for somebody that's never done it. But this is The city sewer lines, you want to see those, because if the city sewer lines are terrible, like, guess where the sewage is going when it backs up? Into your house. So things like that. Like, you want to have like everything looked at. You want the roof to be looked at. You want the backyard, the garage, like all of the things. So I paid for the additional, any extras that I could put on it, because the house was built in like 1920. So I ended up having to walk away from the house, and you get a due diligence period while you're in inspection. And I was cutting it so close to when my movers were actually coming to Charlotte that I had about 2 weeks to find a new place when I backed out of this house. And I could not find something in the city that I liked. And the way Indianapolis is you pretty much have to find a place a couple months before you need to live in it in order to move into it. And I ended up having to go all the way up to Carmel, which is a super, super cute area, very family friendly. And as a single person, that's, not always the greatest. But they have an awesome little downtown area. And I lived in a really cute building that had like a coffee shop in it and a bakery that was amazing. However, it was right on the highway, like right on the highway. Like, you guys, I didn't sleep for like the 3 months I lived there, and even like got soundproofing curtains and everything. Like, it was bad. But I treated that as like a city POC. So if you haven't ever listened to the podcast, a city POC is where you do kind of a proof of concept. So I work in technology for my full-time job. And when a customer buys a new technology that they want to implement into their environment, we do a proof of concept or a try before you buy. And sometimes they do a bake-off, which I basically did a city bake-off between Chicago and Indianapolis, and was coming to Chicago so much that I realized I wanted to go home and be back in Chicago. So a city proof of concept is where you spend a week or longer in a city, because let's face it, anywhere you go for a weekend is magical, but you want to get into the environment. And it's not a vacation. It is literally market research. Like, you are going there with the intention to decide whether you can live there. You want to look at your vibe, like how you're feeling, like, if you're annoyed, like if you get along with the people. Like, I strongly encourage you to do something like this. And we'll do a whole episode on a city POC and a city bake-off, because a lot of times people think that they want to go to a couple different places. Like, I know I was thinking at one point I wanted to go to Denver, maybe back to California. Like, I've had all of these thoughts, right? Which is normal. But then I'll go and visit them and be like, oof, nope, don't want to do that. I mean, I totally could live in Denver because I have one of my best friends, actually a couple really good friends live there. And, but no, when it came down to it, I kept coming back to Chicago. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to move to Chicago. But there were so many things that happened in the Charlotte to Indianapolis move that I could have never anticipated. Never. First things first, the Fred framework that I go through when I'm trying to decide to move pushed my move back to Chicago a full year. Because in 2023, I had a lot of loss. There were like 4 people in my life that I lost. I lost both my dogs within 4 months of each other, like August to December. I had ruptured 3 discs in my back. So from a robustness perspective, my mental health wasn't great and my physical health was even worse. The FRED framework is basically the FRED acronym stands for finances, robustness. So that's where mental and physical strength come in, ecosystem, and dream. And does this move? So you start with the dream. Like, what is the dream? Where do you want to live? What do you want to do? How do you want to feel? Where do you want to be? And then we reverse engineer you into the finances of where you want to move. Making sure you're mentally and physically strong enough. The ecosystem, what it needs to have in it to thrive, right? As a person. Does it have your, specialty doctors? Does it have specialty schools? What does it need to have in order for you to get there and thrive? So all of those things are things that I take into consideration. And in 2023, I was planning on moving in the fall, and I just wasn't strong enough mentally, physically, financially. I would have been fine, but I'm glad I waited a year because my house was worth more a year later. And so when I moved, a lot of the reason I moved well, first of all, I was traveling every single week for work. And okay, so let's talk the Fred framework. The Fred framework is designed to like really look at whether or not you're strong enough to like make this move. It's like what you actually need to have in this community to thrive. But the benefit and the beauty of this framework is that you go back to dreams after doing things like the city POC and a city bake-off, and you go back to the dreams tab of the acronym and you say, is this still the dream? And I will tell you guys, sometimes it isn't, right? Sometimes it's enough to just have you stop and say, okay, you know what? Maybe I should wait. Maybe it's not the right time, or maybe I don't want to do this at all. I was coaching somebody one time and he wanted so badly to move to San Diego and just was constantly, the more time that passed, the more time he like felt this sense of shame that he hadn't moved yet. And so I said, well, when was the last time you were there? Thinking it was like 6 months ago. And he's like, it was like 20 years ago. And I was like, so you haven't been back in 20 years? And he said, no. And I said, okay, go back. Like, I basically told him, like, go back. Like, he worked remote, and I said, I introduced him to Furnished Finder, which is, I've had him on the podcast before. It's a midterm rental. So like an Airbnb is considered a short-term rental. So you have a lot of fees, a lot of cleaning fees. You've just got a lot of fees, and it costs a little bit more. When you do something like Furnished Finder, you can rent a place for a month straight from a landlord. It's got to be 30 days or longer typically, I think, but it doesn't have all those fees connected to it. So it's a lot less expensive if you were to spend a month somewhere. And I'm not affiliated with them yet. I'm hoping to maybe get sponsorship from them in the future because I send so many people there, but they're great. And it's a really low cost option to try before you buy. This person owned a home, so just even getting your house prepped and ready to sell it is a pain in the butt, you guys. And if you don't have a house and you're just renting, like, consider yourself really blessed if you do want to move somewhere cross country, because you basically like move your stuff out, clean it up, and you're done. Whereas like when you sell a house, there is so much involved. It costs so much money. The seller is the one that pays the commission. So you lose a lot of money on the equity of your house and everything. So anyway, he went and I had him stay in a couple different areas within San Diego, and he came back and he was like, thank God I did not sell my house. And he's like, you were literally like answering a prayer, because I realize more than ever that I'm so content living here. Like, I may sell this house and move to a different area within this town, but he's like, I'm so glad I didn't move. And that's the point of doing the Fred framework, right? So, his finances were in a good place mentally and physically. He would have been strong enough to move. I have a bunch of friends there. I could have like introduced him into the ecosystem, and San Diego is great. They've got all kinds of, everything you can imagine, from like holistic healers to like specialty doctors and all that stuff. Like anything that you need is there. But when it came down to it, that dream, he was able to close the file and the chapter on that dream, and is now so super content that he stayed. So that's what I want for people. And so me going through the Fred framework in 2023, I knew it wasn't the right time inherently. Fast forward to 2024, I spent a lot of time healing. Like I am just now getting to a place where I'm thinking about getting another dog. I'm just now getting to the place where I can talk about, them passing and not bawl my eyes out. But at the same time, like I knew that I wanted to be closer to friends and family. And a lot of the people that I moved to Charlotte to be closer to left. My brother wasn't there anymore. My cousins weren't there. And, I literally had like a handful of friends. I didn't get to see them very often. My neighbors I got to see all the time, which was great. But, the long and the short of it is that financially it was a great move for me, because I made a lot of money. I wouldn't say a lot of, I made a decent amount of money off my house. I was able to pay off, all my debt, and, have a little bit in an emergency fund to save for, if I bought another house again. And I knew I was going to be, renting when I got to Carmel at that point, because I was already, actually no, at that point I was buying a house, but the down payment would have been so low because it was a $220,000 house and I was only going to put 5% down because that's a thing. A lot of people don't realize that's all you have to put down. I would rather have money in the bank and like liquid cash if I need it versus like tying it all up in a house. But some people are different. Some people want to put a really large down payment down and have a lower mortgage. So anyway, point of my story is it just made sense. Like financially, it made sense. I was in a better place mentally and physically, I thought, physically for sure. But when it came down to it, I moved and because the only place I could get was a 2-bedroom apartment, 3/4 of my life was in storage. And, even just being 3 months out from that situation or 6 months out from that situation, you forget how impactful a move is. Like it is traumatic in the best situations because like you get there and you don't realize like all that crap that you have that like you're like, oh, why did I even move this? Or like, I hate that I have to put everything in a box. Like, because you have movers, everything has to go into a box. And at that point, I had a 3-bedroom house, like a 1,600 square foot house with a 2-car garage, and like just even getting everything packed up. Like I was very cocky about it. I've moved 20 times in the last 24 years. So I was like, dude, this is nothing. This is fine. Like it's going to be easy. And it wasn't. Luckily, I had a really, really good mover that I've used a couple times. He's helped my family and he got it. Like, I think he realized like I was not in a good place. Like once I sold the house, like I could have backed out of it, but it would have been really difficult and I would have lost a lot of money. And I just was kind of committed to it because I was like, I know I want to be closer to the Midwest. I want to be closer to my family. But then Hurricane Helene hit. So something I could have never in a million years anticipated first, and obviously Asheville never anticipated it either. They got flooded out and it was just a terrible, terrible situation. I mean, they're still trying to rebuild. And this is, as of this recording, this is April, the beginning of April. It was just heartbreaking. But I lived in Mecklenburg County, which is 2 hours away from Asheville. And they put my house in in a flood zone. I mean, my plastic plants on the back porch of my, patio didn't even blow over. That's how little effect we got from Hurricane Helene. And because they put it in a flood zone, my closing got canceled. It was crazy. In fact, I called my attorney and I was like, did you see that email? And he's like, yeah, just ignore it. It's probably a scam. Because he had never heard of a closing getting canceled by FEMA. Like it was legit. My real estate agent called me and he's like, dude, I don't know what happened, but 10 of my closings just, got canceled as well. So like, let me get back to you. And it turns out because it was put in a flood zone, every house that was set to close had to be re-inspected, reappraised. I mean, like the poor people that bought my house, I mean, they weren't poor. They obviously were doing okay because my house went for a good amount of money, but they had to push back. And then like they were moving out of an apartment or a house or something that they had rented. They had family flying in to help them with the move. I mean, it was bad on all accounts. And then even like the day that we were finally supposed to close, all these problems because the closing was pushed back. That meant I had to pay more HOA fees. I had to pay more taxes. I had to pay more on the mortgage. And all of that, when you close, you guys, the closing sheet is calculated to the penny. And because all of those changes were made, we were off by $11. And I was like, can I just Venmo someone? And they were like, no. And so it made it even harder. I was driving to Southern Illinois University we were having homecoming and I was doing a speech on campus for the American Marketing Association. I have a really fun speech that I do called Your First Real Job. Moving to a new city, making big money, and what business casual actually means. And so I was doing that. It was the kickoff of me giving this speech, and it's like from Charlotte to Southern Illinois. I mean, from Indianapolis to Southern Illinois, because I moved 5 days ahead of when my closing was, because that was the only weekend we could do it. I had to stop 3 times off the highway on a 4-hour drive to re-sign paperwork on DocuSign on my phone. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm signing right now. Like, it was crazy and so emotional. And then at the last minute, my attorney calls me and he's like, I got really bad news. And I was like, what could be worse than what I've just been dealing with. And he's like, their computers are down. And I was like, excuse me? And he's like, yeah, the registrar, that like, or what is, he didn't call it a registrar. I think it's something like that. Whatever he called it was like, yeah, their systems went down. He's like, I literally have somebody in the office refreshing the app, just hitting refresh, so we could have this recorded. Because what they do is they record basically the title to the house or the deed to the house for the county. And the problem was if it did not get recorded by 4 p.m. Eastern time, and at that point it was like 3:53, then they had to push to Monday. But they couldn't push to Monday. They would have to push to Tuesday. And that's 4 more days that I'm paying for HOAs, taxes, mortgage, because Monday was a holiday. I don't even remember what holiday it was. It was like I don't even remember what holiday it was. So all that to be said, like this could not have been more stressful. And on the side of the move, like the actual physical move itself, I did not plan ahead because there's a million hotels, on a 9-hour drive, right? So what I anticipated was that we were going to move out, and it usually, I mean, this is really sad that I know this, but it was, it usually takes like 6 hours to move out of a house. Just that's a general rule if you have about a 3-bedroom house or so. Because the movers come, they assess the situation, we start, moving the big stuff out, and then they start moving the little stuff. And then inevitably there's always stuff that's not packed, but you got to figure out what to do with it. And then you're like repacking boxes, and it takes about 5-6 hours. The quickest I've ever done a move out is 5 hours. The longest I've ever done a move out was 9 hours. So give yourself a really good range, especially if you're moving across country. Like just book a hotel in your city that night, because it's a long day. It sucks. Everybody's tired. But so what I anticipated doing was, getting done by like, I don't know, 7-ish, and then driving 3 hours to get ahead, because it's a 9-hour drive from Charlotte to Indianapolis. But what ended up happening is because Hurricane Helene displaced so many families, anything within a 3-hour drive, which puts us right in the Asheville, not even Asheville, like about an hour north of Asheville, all of those hotels were sold out. All of them. And there was one that was like 30 minutes from my house that I was currently living in at that moment, Charlotte, which means we had, and mind you, I was moving in on a Saturday, and we had to be there by like 3 p.m. So that meant we had to get up and leave at like 5:30 in the morning, because we had an 8.5-hour drive with stops ahead of us. It was like the worst thing ever. My dad and my brother drove out with me. They are saints, you guys. They have made almost every move with me. I can't even describe how grateful I am for their help in this move, because when I got to Indianapolis, like I basically had a break. I didn't basically have a breakdown. I had a breakdown. We got there, we started moving all the stuff in, and there was just boxes everywhere. But because 3/4 of my life was going into storage, half of the boxes that were going into storage, like some of them made it into my apartment, some of them didn't, which, we had already piled the storage unit to the sky. So like anything that was already in there, like I wasn't getting anything out of there. And my stepmom had driven, I love this woman. Her name is Kim. She drove from Chicago the 3 hours or so to my apartment to help. And when we got there, like the next, like we'd got, my brother stayed with me. I got them a hotel. And the next morning we started unpacking, and I just was like, what did I do? Like I'm now in a 2-bedroom apartment. I like, you feel like naked, like none of your stuff is there. Couldn't even figure out where anything was. Like I couldn't figure out where my dishes were or my silverware was. And I went from I didn't have a ton of cabinets in Charlotte. That's what's even weirder about the situation. I had about the same amount of cabinets, but they were just smaller. So like even just putting my cups in the cabinets, we started putting all the cups in the cabinets and realized like, oh, I can really only have like 8 cups and like 4 mugs. Like I had to pull everything that we had just unpacked, put them all back in boxes and bring into storage. I ended up having to get a second small storage unit just for like the overflow on things that had to go. But I think that the bigger part of it is that like it was so stressful, and I did the work, like I think that that's the part that I was like dreading telling you guys, is that like even a veteran of moving can go through a situation like this, and it's really hard and really scary when you're like, what the hell did I just do? And it was funny because I was going to just quit the podcast altogether. And I listened. This is so funny. I listened to the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. If you haven't gotten on the Mel Robbins bandwagon, like, what's wrong with you? No, I'm just kidding. She's amazing. It sounds like she came out of nowhere, but she really has been doing this for a very, very long time. But in the Let Them Theory, I candidly was like, I don't need to read that. I kind of let people, I just am very like, I let a lot of things roll off my back. I don't often like let things bother me. But the part about the Let Them Theory is that it's let them, whoever is causing you issues or challenges or making you feel bad or whatever, let them do that. But the second part of it is let me take back that power. Let me do what I need to do. Let me do that. And she kind of re-inspired me, not because of the Let Them Theory and the let them or let me, but because she told the story about her moving and how difficult it was to move from where she was to where she ended up, to the point where like she had met some woman and like she knew where she lived, and so she actually was on a walk with her daughters, and she walked up to her daughters, made her like walk up to the door and knock on the door and ask them to be her friend, because it's hard to make friends as an adult. And I was so re-inspired listening to this, because I'm like, this is the whole reason I'm doing the podcast, is because I want somebody to prep for their moves. I want them to have a friend base when they move there, because they've done the research and they've gotten in the Facebook groups and they've connected on meetups and they've done all that stuff. So I don't have to have that awkward walking up to somebody's door and being like, I met you, let's be friends. Like, I love that she did that. And I love that the woman's husband invited them in, and she ended up coming back or home, and she ended up talking to this woman. Now they're friends. Like, I love that story. But just the heartbreaking story of what she went through with this move, like, re-inspired me to jump on here and do this for you guys, because God, it's so hard when it's hard. It's so great when it's great, though. So that brings me to the other part of my story. Well, actually, I should probably talk more about the breakdown. I don't want to talk about it because I'm already crying, sort of. I think it's hard when you like feel that guilt and shame about like, what did you just do and how the heck am I going to get out of it? Right? Because there's really no getting out of it once you've moved. Like, you can leave, right? But now you're paying for another set of movers. You're paying to get out of your lease. I had to pay $9,000 to get out of my lease, you guys. $9,000. But I didn't anticipate leaving, right? I was going to spend a year there. And when it came down to it, I was coming back to Chicago every other week, basically, for different like family events and to see friends and things like that. So it made my decision very easy. And luckily I had, like I said, I put money in savings for the move, and I just calculated this as part of my moving expenses. But I think part of it is that like when you get there and you're feeling so lonely, like, even though I have friends in Indianapolis, I was about an hour north. And so like getting to see them, we were like meeting in the middle. And I don't know, it was so heartbreaking, because I was like, not only what did I do, but how do I move forward? Like this new life where I'm, so pared down. Like I was literally like in a 1,000 square foot apartment. And I came from a 1,600 square foot house with a 2-car garage, and I had a garage spot, but I couldn't put anything in it. Right. So like, you don't realize what that means in real life when you have a lot of stuff. And so I kind of just like, the breakdown was kind of like all the things. Like, I left my therapists, and I really wish like that they would get with the times and like realize that like telehealth is a real thing. Like, I never met with my therapist and not have an amazing breakthrough experience. Like I loved working with this guy, Kevin Boyd. shout out to him. Like if you are in North Carolina, I think he's in he's licensed in North Carolina and California, I think, to a couple other states maybe, but he is the best therapist I've ever had in my life. But even just like him, like I'm going through this breakdown and I couldn't talk to him because, I was across state lines, like things like that where you're like, oh my gosh, I really need the help right now. Like that was really, really hard. And partially because I didn't know why I was having such a hard time with that move. Like I did not love Charlotte at that point when I was moving. So why was this such a big deal? And I think because it was so permanent that I was like leaving. And then I got to a new town that I didn't really know anybody and I knew I was going to be lonely and I was going to have to I had a kind of a blind date-ish set up that I was going to go on. And that was great. I enjoyed it myself. I think he was new out of a relationship. So I think he freaked out a little bit, but I don't know. It was one of those things where even though I went through the Fred framework and even though I'm a veteran when it comes to moving and I've done it a million times, it just wasn't right when I got there. And I think that's why I pushed doing a city POC so much. Because I did the POC in Indianapolis. I didn't do a POC in Carmel. I kind of had no choice but I probably could have rented something in Charlotte or, found a short-term rental in Indianapolis until I found something. But I really liked Carmel and we had an office there. And anyway, point of my story is a house became available in Chicago, in the town that I grew up around. And it was funny because the woman that I use as a real estate agent here is a friend of mine from high school. Her name is Rami Lockwood. Actually, Rami Achterhoff. I always still call her. She's been married a million years, and I still call her maiden name. But Rami Achterhoff. She's with Coldwell Banker. She's amazing, and she's like my family realtor. And my dad and his wife were looking to make some updates to their house, and so they had her come over. They're considering moving themselves and they wanted to see like what she would think that they would need to update in order to sell the house. Like I said earlier, like you got to make updates and stuff. Like it's a lot. Like when you're selling your house, like you want top dollar, obviously, but you got to do things in order to make it a place where somebody wants to live and pay top dollar, right? So she came over and she's like, yeah, I have this house that we just renovated, that it's on the market. If you want to come see it, like you can see what the updated floors look like and, what we did to the rooms and how we updated the kitchen and, get some ideas there. And so I happened to be coming in town and my dad told me that they were going to do that. And he's like, do you want to go? And I was like, yeah. And so I texted her. I'm like, what house are you talking about? And she's like, it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. And I was like, aha, that's why I couldn't find it. Because I was looking for 2-bathroom houses. But it's a small house, so it doesn't warrant having 2 bathrooms in it. And so I came over to look at it and I walked in and I was like, oh my gosh, this is my house. Like what I love about Rami is she's got really impeccable, very high-end taste. And so everything that they did in this house was exactly what I would have done to renovate this house. Like the kitchen, it's like the cabinets are this beautiful chestnut color that perfectly matches the luxury vinyl plank flooring that they put in all over the house. And the walls are like a gray color. All of the doors are like full heavy hardwood instead of that cheap, hollow wood. And they're all painted this super bright white color with like black door handles. I mean, like the place is gorgeous. And I instantly knew. And what was crazy is that, I had the money in the bank because I put all of the money that I made off my Charlotte house. And I'm going to do a whole episode on how to find movers. So I'm not going to tell the story right now because I'm already like 44 minutes in and I swore this was going to be a shorty that was going to be under 30 minutes. But the long and the short of it is that I could do basically a quick close. I got an inspection and we had some plumbing issues that we worked through, which again, you guys, the inspection, I cannot recommend inspections enough. Do not buy a house. Do not ever waive an inspection, ever. If that means that the buyer or the sellers, declines your offer, there's something that they're hiding, right? Every single seller that has a great house will welcome an inspection to prove that they're selling a good house. But we found some issues with the plumbing in the city sewer. And so we were able to rot everything out before I moved in the house, because if you don't do that, like you can't take a shower, like it'll all back up and you'll be standing in a couple inches of water, which is disgusting. Anyway, so the point of my story is that I ended up, because she had a stake in this house because she did the renovation, I couldn't use her as my real estate agent. So for the first time ever, I just bought this house through an attorney with her as the seller's realtor, and it worked out. And so I actually have a guy coming on the podcast doing an interview, not to derail somebody from using a realtor. I think there's an amazing amount of realtors out there that are really, really good. And I was very hesitant to not use a realtor, but she would have been my realtor. And I didn't want to hire somebody and have to pay somebody a commission just for the sake of having a realtor, because you have real estate attorneys out there that, can do exactly what you need them to do. And, but I wasn't looking at multiple houses and buying. I was just looking at this one, and I'm glad I made the decision I made. It's the right house for me. It's adorable. It's 15 minutes from my dad and Kim. And, it's got a fence already in the yard. It's a fenced in yard. So, in a month or so, I'm going to get a dog, I think. So all that to be said, I found the right mover. They showed up early. They took all my stuff out of storage. They took all my stuff out of the apartment. They stored it overnight, and the next day they drove out. They literally had all my stuff unloaded in like 3 hours, and I was already like hanging pictures by the end of the night. And it was by far the easiest, least stressful move I have ever made in my entire moving career. And I'm going to stay here for a couple years, I think. And then I'm going to probably rent this house out because it's adorable and I want to keep it in I don't want to invest in real estate, but I would love to have a rental and have some, family rent this house out. And yeah, and if not, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll stay here for a long, long time. Who knows? But I am making a few upgrades, and I'm going to take you guys through it through social media. I am building a podcasting studio. So right now you're just seeing me in my office. The acoustics aren't great, I'm sure. I'm hoping. I'm trying to speak quieter because the last couple episodes I recorded were it was like I was eating the microphone. So I have the microphone pushed out a little bit so you can't even see it on camera, but I can lift it up so you can see it. Boop, there it is if you're on YouTube watching. So I just have one call to action for you guys. I'm going to wrap this up because that was a lot. This was a long episode. I'm sorry. But I am excited to get back in the game. I am going to be looking for sponsors. So if you have an idea for me, I want to reach out. So Mixed Tiles, so the pictures behind me. So this is going to make you go to YouTube so you can see my pictures. Surfboards. I love the beach. So surfboards. I got Polly the parrot. That's what I call her. I got my little VW bus. One day I'm going to own a VW bus. I just think they're the coolest. And there's another picture too. It's like oh gosh, what are those things called? I can't remember. It's the plant that you don't have to water ever, once a year. Succulent. It's a pink succulent. But these are mixed tiles. And basically there's a thing that you affix to the wall, and it's got a magnet on the other side, and on the picture it has a magnet. So I literally just moved all of these to this side of the office because I was staring at them before because I think they're pretty and I like to see them. But now I can see them too because I'm watching myself on the camera and I can see them. But yeah, so Mixed Tiles, I feel like I need to reach out to them as a sponsor because everywhere I move to, I just throw these up in literally 5 seconds. And they're easy and awesome, and you can move them from wall to wall to wall, and they have never hurt my paint ever. So, little tip for you. I'm not affiliated with them yet, but you might see them as a sponsor soon. But yeah, so call to action. If you're not on my mailing list, I'm going to start the mailer soon. I put this thing together called Moving for Smarties. And for right now, I'm not charging for it. It's about 27 pages. It basically helps you figure out everything from your finances to if you're mentally and physically strong enough to move, what you need to have in your ecosystem to thrive, and if this move will get you closer to your dreams. Even where to move based on where your friends are. Pretty proud of it. It's a really good workbook for somebody that's just kind of starting to dream about moving to a different city. And like I said, I'm not charging for it right now, but I think in the future I might, because I might add to it, considering writing a book, because I'm in the process of getting it copyrighted and trademarked and everything. But anyway, jump on the Monday mailer. I don't even know if I'm going to do them on Mondays. Jump on the mailer. I'm not committing to anything, as you can see this year. I always put myself in these positions where I commit to a lot of things and then I feel the pressure of getting it done and then I do it half-assed, and I'm not going to do that anymore. So I'm going to be sending a mailer out, a couple times a month. And when I do, it's going to be chock full of good tips for you. But that's the way that you get the Moving for Smarties book. And I think that even just listening to this episode or any of the episodes that I have makes you a moving smartie. So I want to reward that with what I'm putting out. And then if you do want a free coaching session on where you want to move, or, a situation that you're in right now, jump onto the website, and it's decidingtomove.com. That's where you're going to be able to sign up for a coaching session. It's going to be 30 minutes, no more, because my time is very valuable. But that's how you guys will start getting a taste of what I do in coaching sessions. I have a program that I used to run people through that was very, very detailed. And then I have just regular coaching sessions that you can sign up for. That's going to be starting in June. So they're not up running yet. I don't have the roster set up yet. I'm going to be leaving my full-time job and moving to a new vendor covering my old company, which is super exciting. But I'm have a little bit more flexibility in my job. So I'm going to be able to have coaching sessions set up and do coaching a couple days a week. So it's going to be really cool. But anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for not tuning out when I started crying. And thanks for being a moving smartie. This is really fun for me. I love it. And I love you. Bye for now.
That's a wrap on today's tips and tricks. Jump on decidingtomove.com to apply for a free on-air coaching session, or join the newsletter to get your copy of the Moving for Smarties workbook. Oh, and the legal stuff. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I'm a certified coach, not a licensed therapist, and this is not meant to replace the professional advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or real estate agent. I do not own a moving company or work for the governing agencies transporting home goods, which means Mariette's on the Move LLC is not responsible for anything that happens during your move. This is solely my perspective based on my research and my own experience and training. So, move at your own risk. Bye for now.